after that Broncos win, I bet Denver is feeling quite bonito.
Do you want to go on the chopping block too?
Take me.
Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
And today we're going to be going over Week 15 recap. We got quite a few things happen, especially every game has had a little bit of news, but I'd say for the most part, there's definitely some news that definitely stand out, I'd say, in my opinion. If I sound really, like no voice, I am somehow still recovering from a slight cold from was it a week and a half now or something like that? I don't know. I've been sick for a while.
Yeah. Well,
whatever.
Yeah, we can get into it.
Thursday night game.
Oh, okay.
There's just one thing that I want to say from that game. Unless you have anything else that you want to say.
I mean,
I think you know what I'm going to be talking about, so.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll let you address that because that's the most interesting thing.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about being accountable and holding yourself responsible. Or just, I guess, being a teammate would be a better way to put that. Devondre Campbell, I am very disappointed in you. And I think Will can also agree with that. You are a professional athlete being paid probably millions right now. And that is what you do. Walking out, the game's not even over. I think it was like the end of the third quarter or whatever it was. He was sitting on the bench or whatever. I don't care if you think the season's lost or whatever, but that is unexcusable and downright disappointing. I don't think I've been disappointed in a player like that for a while now. And as he is, I believe he was suspended by the Niners, and he was also cut the very next day from the roster. Or I heard something about that.
So, yeah, it's very disappointing actions. Essentially, he quit on his team during the third, just got up and walked to the locker room. Decided Shanahan said that he just decided he didn't want to play. What it was, I believe, was the fact, or a lot of the speculation is that he was benched for Dre Greenlaw in his return game. But the funny thing is that they were actually injured in that fourth quarter towards the end of that game, where he could have gotten playing time and where they could have used him. But because he had left, they were kind of just like, what do we do? But I think a very interesting point here that I'm confused about, because the decision came out, there was a lot of rumors a lot of people thought he was going to be cut because that is a cuttable action. That is something that people get released for. The 49ers are banged up in the linebacker room, though. Their linebackers are banged up, and I think that's part of the reason. He wasn't actually, as of right now, he has not been cut. He was suspended 3 games.
I did see the suspension, but I heard rumors of being cut, so.
That was, I think the immediate assumption was that he would be. This is what confuses me, is they suspended him 3 games. They only have 3 games left in the regular season. So basically what I'm hearing is they're suspending him for the rest of the season unless they make the playoffs, which is like, why? When you could cut him and sign a free agent in his place. Like
discipline or something, I don't know. Depends on what you ask Shanahan or something, I don't know.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't either to me. I just think it's just more of a discipline action, I guess. don't
I think
know. I guess
cutting
that's
him would
like
be perfectly disciplinary.
yeah, I do think it's more of a discipline move. I just think that could be viewed as a discipline move, but
It's still it's still an act of discipline or punishment. It's a consequence, but it just doesn't make sense why you're gonna suspend him, keep him on your roster when you're not. You could get someone who could actually contribute in that time when you have a pressing need for linebackers.
Yeah.
So that's what confused me on it. Game was not pretty.
no, it
It
was,
was
very, very bad.
Ugly
game.
weather. It was very rainy. A lot of people are making fun of some of the stuff that happened or poking fun at the 49ers and Debo for dropping a pass. But again, it was heavy rain. Nobody did really anything.
Nope. Brock
so-
Purdy had barely 4 points in fantasy.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
I do want to give some credit to Diamador Lenore, who I wasn't super familiar with him prior to this year, but he's come in and he's played pretty well, and he played pretty well early in that game too. So credit to him for having a pretty solid game, but it was not a very fun game. I'm going to be honest. I tried to watch that game and I did fall asleep. Actively.
I chose not to watch that game because I heard about the weather. I'm like, this is not going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I really tried. But yeah,
No, I couldn't.
maybe getting into some more interesting games. Do we want to address Kansas City and the news there?
I do want to address the two things that happened. Nick Chubb is now out with a broken foot.
And his is for the rest of the year
rest
now.
of the year. So another Nick Chubb injury, obviously. There was a play, I think, towards the fourth quarter where Mahomes got, I think, hit up high and it hit down low at the same time. And apparently Mahomes is now week to week with an ankle injury. He was limping off the field there towards the end of that game. So
He did sustain a high ankle sprain was the injury.
So hopefully he can recover. Also, I do want to address this. I think I addressed it during the live stream. Those who were celebrating Mahomes' injury, shame on you. That's all I got to say.
I mean,
I will not associate with people who celebrate people's injuries.
knowing Mahomes, he'll be back next week because he has the funkiest body and he can recover from anything and play with any injury, which is just annoying.
That's how he won one of the Super Bowls. He was injured.
He made it. Yeah, I think he made it.
Was it the Eagles Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think he made it to that one injury. But he's got funky ligaments, so he
can do it. He's fine.
That's just
Yeah,
got to see some Carson Wentz though. But yeah,
That's true. Carson Wentz was a little bit in that.
That game was nothing of note. It wasn't close. There was no black magic, but also
It was just
convincing.
It was a bad game for the Browns, anyways. Because was it 4 interceptions or something like that, and like
I don't know,
5
some-
sacks for the Chiefs defense?
some Jameis numbers. I don't know.
Yeah.
But looking at some other games, Cincinnati. There was definitely some things to note.
There's one thing I want to know in that game, but I'll let you go.
I know you want to get to that, but before I do, Joe Burrow continuing to just try and be the hero of Cincinnati, which I mean he's doing a good job. It's just I feel like I'm noticing a lot more turnovers than there are. He's playing a lot of hero ball, and he does a pretty good job. 3 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions.
So, yeah.
There are 2 games this week that combined for turnovers, there were 18 between 2 games. This one had 10.
That's crazy.
Cincinnati had 4, Tennessee had 6. This was a 10 turnover game, and there's a later one that had 8, and it was ugly. So,
So not good football. Or maybe good football. I don't know. It depends on what you view as defense.
not between these two, especially with Tennessee. Yeah, Joe Burrow, just a lot of hero ball. He's playing. He's having a pretty good year, but I don't know. It's just I feel like his numbers are a little padded or compared to his play. Like again, he's carrying the offense, but it's also the mistakes and stuff. He's doing too much.
I was about to say, don't say padding here, because he's actually doing a lot there.
He is doing a lot, but it's just, I don't know. Their defense needs to step up, and they need to not rely on him so much because yes, he has a lot of impressive numbers, but he's also turning the ball over because of the hero ball stuff. So
Well, he's trying to do it all himself. That's the other issue.
I will digress.
But the other thing I wanted to note from that game, well, I guess two small things. Devondre Sweat with the stiff arm, 66-pound defensive tackle Devondre Sweat. That was funny.
He's a big boy.
And then this week we've had two of the same play that I didn't think I would ever see, at least in a little while. But Jordan Battle, I think that's his last name, fumbled the scoop and score through the back of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
While it wasn't, I mean, technically it was a drop before the end zone, technically, but he almost pulled a Deshaun Jackson, or unless he did. I know he fumbled it through the end zone. I don't know if he dropped it before.
That one was not. I'm pretty sure that was the one that was ruled an actual fumble. So that one didn't. That was but unless you have anything to talk about that game, we could also talk about the other one, which also happens to be the other half of my stat from that game, which is this is the game with 8 turnovers between the Broncos and the Colts, where there were eight turnovers. I know you're gonna mention the whole dropped touchdown that was by Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
That just being the other half. That 2 cases in the same week is really funny, but also again 8 turnovers in this game. We saw the return of Bo Picks.
Yay!
3 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean it was bound to happen at some point. Just saying, Bo Nix is still a rookie. He's still developing. He's still trying to understand the whole schematics and everything. So he's bound to have some bad games.
This is true.
But still led the team. Also did want to note Taylor's Deshaun Jackson moment. Since that play, the Colts were outscored, I think, by 24-0 points after that point.
Yeah.
So
the Colts had a lead and they blew it hard. This game was
ugly.
It had a lot. It was what I am calling, or as I referenced before, the Bo Ito moment, also known as tragic trickery, with a pick 6 on a trick play that just, I mean, it wasn't a bad design play.
No.
It was a double pass to Richardson to A.D. Mitchell, back to Richardson, but Mitchell took too long to get his hand on the ball and throw it.
Yeah.
And it gave too much time for Benito to get through the line and pick it off, and he just had a free run. So that was funny and embarrassing for the Colts. But I also want to note one person in particular who does get my first set of flowers that I was very impressed with during this game. I don't think it's someone not someone you would guess, but it's actually going to go, and maybe it's a little controversial, but he did kickstart and set the Broncos up for a lot of the points prior to their just takeoff. And that's going to go to Marvin Mims, who had 2 or 3 really good returns and also was contributing in the pass game a little bit.
Yeah, special teams flowers, guys.
Yeah.
We finally got one.
So the Broncos had 193 total yards. Marvin Mims had 117 of them.
That's funny.
And it was 97, I believe, on punt returns. On 3 of them. 3 punt returns for 97 yards. Dude,
pretty crazy.
Dude was going off, and so
he was their offense before the offense even started.
He kind of kicked that, and the defense is what really kept
good.
Their defense and special teams kept them in that game.
Yep.
Yeah. Bo Nix he was struggling a bit, and he still ended with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
he
okay.
cleaned it up towards the end, but it was just a rough game. But even regardless, the strength of the Broncos kept them in that game and won them the game. So we can move along, though, to a more interesting game. Do we want to talk the controversy of the Commanders game, perhaps.
I
The ending, at
did. I
least.
did want to talk about that. I know I explained it during the live stream, but basically what happened is that. So what was it? It was So the Saints ran the ball, I believe. They ran or threw the ball. Third to last play.
They were down. I didn't see what the play was, but it was they
It was
were
the third
tackled
of-
in bounds.
Yeah, they were tackled in bounds. It was the third to last play. That should have been the last play of the game. However, well, depending on how things.
There was
shook
9
out.
seconds, and the clock should have ran.
It
but
should have ran
didn't.
out, but it didn't because the refs somehow just either didn't pay attention or they just didn't care and just basically gave the Saints a chance to possibly win that game there. Obviously, the Saints couldn't because they failed. But there was also an interview. I do want to credit, I think it was one of our live stream viewers. I think it was Tim. Yes, it was Tim. He sent that in our Discord showing the, excuse me, the script between the interviewer and I think the head official during that game. And the head official just wouldn't explain it whatsoever.
Well, it's just a case of it was a mistake. It was the back judge stopped the clock when it shouldn't have been stopped, and there's really nothing he can do. He said that it was a mistake by the back judge to stop the clock. Any speculation as to why? No, or is there was nothing. He was like, there's nothing we could do because you can't do anything about it. And it was a mistake by the ref. And when he was like trying to dig deeper, it was like there's nothing to comment on.
It was just an oopsie.
It's a mistake, and there's not a lot they can do about it. But yeah, we'll move along. We can Ravens, my team, can make it real quick.
Good stiff arm from Lamar.
Dude, that game. I mean, it was the Giants.
Yeah.
Not a good team, but
No.
they still went out and played them as they should and beat them as they should have. Like, they destroyed the Giants as you would have expected. And that's a lot more than what you can say for some teams. I mean, again, the Chiefs won 21-7 over the Browns. A lot of teams played bad teams, and so, I mean, still beating them as they should. But Lamar Jackson, he is not giving up on that MVP race, even though that's not really what he's playing for. I mean,
at this point, but
he wants a ring, but I mean, 21 for 25, 290 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had a perfect passer rating. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of marks that he surpassed. He also had 65 rushing yards. He was
that too, yeah.
2 yards shy of leading rusher as well.
I was about to say he's behind Vic, right?
Oh no, I meant on the day. He was
On the
behind
day,
Derrick
there was a
Henry.
record that he broke from Vic or something like that. Or something was compared to him with Vic. Whether it be like total games with like total passing yards and rushing yards or whatever it was. I don't know.
Probably something like that. There's a lot of niche ones, but he had himself a very good game. And again, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, Lamar for MVP because I'm a Ravens fan, but
He also, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
But
we can get into some of the quarterback stats in a little bit later because there's a lot of quarterbacks who have very impressive seasons, and I think his passing stats alone are something to be talked about. But
Yeah. I mean, that game just basically pushed the narrative to fire everyone, as that one banner said.
yeah, Giants are a dumpster fire, but they're not the only dumpster fire. We'll look at, Panthers, Cowboys. Old Panthers are back. That was
Yeah. They're back to form, I guess. Prescott, I know he didn't play or anything, but I did see this stat. The touchdown to interception ratio between Prescott and Rush is very interesting. 12-8 for Prescott, 10-3 for Rush.
yeah.
Certain games played out certain ways, obviously, but just a weird stat that I found. So Cooper Rush actually is not doing too bad right now. I know he's not playing great teams, but still.
It's also the idea of we've seen this with backup quarterbacks compared to starting quarterbacks. where, I mean, we saw this with Jordan Love and Malik Willis.
This is true.
You simplify your game plan when you have a backup quarterback because he can't do the same things. So you simplify it, and when you simplify things, sometimes that works. You use the fundamentals and it works.
Yep.
And there's a lot of coaching things with the Cowboys this year. That's been a lot of their issue, and I think this is a very, I think that's a good explanation for that is, oh, Cooper Rush is not Dak Prescott. Let's just play him like a backup quarterback. And surprise, the talent, you let the talent do what they need to do instead of trying to work miracles.
Yeah, I mean, congrats, you beat the Panthers, but still, it was a good experience for Rush. So I'm glad he's got some experience there. However, the Panthers are one of two teams that are eliminated this week.
Chopping block.
They're on the chopping block. And I do want to say this, though. Panthers have been impressing me a lot recently. I know they have for you as well. Bryce Young is looking to be more confident, I'd say, in the pocket. He's been more flashy. Hopefully, we can see more of him in the future. But for now, you're gone.
Yeah, they're just
a
little bit of a mess. Let's see. We'll skip through a few that weren't super interesting. Tank Bowl part, iteration 5 between Jets and Jags is a lot of offense.
I should have started Brian Thomas Jr. in my fantasy league.
Yeah.
Bro had like 32 points.
Yep, Devontae had 9 receptions for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. He went off.
I believe Adams has 100 touchdowns on his resume.
Props to him.
So
Good
job. Good job for Adams.
I don't know. Rodgers
Finally
and the
took
Jets
a while.
against a bad Jaguars team and Trevorless Jaguars team barely squeak out a win.
Even Mac Jones looked kind of decent there.
Well, when you throw 46 times, it's easy to get some numbers. Dolphins, Texans, they just, again, Dolphins just not really able to close things out, and their window is closing a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Texans claim the AFC South. They have that division locked down. For the Dolphins, prayers sent out to Grant Dubose, yes. Dubose, he was carted off the field, straight to the hospital with a head injury. I believe it was like a helmet-to-helmet contact or whatever it was. I don't remember. But speedy recovery for him. Hopefully it's not anything too serious. But
I believe I saw good news on that one, but I can't be for sure because there's been a lot of injuries. So
there were a lot of injuries this week. I don't know why. But
we can get into a much more interesting game in the Bills and Lions, which
that should have been a Sunday night game.
I wish it would have been. That would have made the stream so much more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of offense. The only real defense was one fumble.
One fumble, yeah. Between the two, 90 points scored. The Bills. Yeah, the Bills have scored 90 points in the last 2 games, but also
there was 90 total points in this game.
And there was also 90 points
42
this year. For the Lions, the defensive injuries are finally showing. Was it 12 total touchdowns, 1,080 total yards between both the teams. And the sad news is that now Sonic and Knuckles are no longer a thing because Montgomery is to miss the rest of the season with a torn MCL, and he's going to have surgery, which will take him out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, he's not the only Lion who's out for the rest of the year. Lee McNeil is also out for the rest of the year, which is just... I mean, again, this was the thing is like the Lions, yes, they're a well-coached team, but there's a point where you can't just well-coach your way to a good defensive game when you're going against the way Josh Allen has been playing. So both quarterbacks though played their asses off. Amon-Ra St. Brown played well. It was offensively very good game. Defensively, I'm concerned for both of them. Lions more because they aren't healthy and they need pieces back.
Yeah.
The Bills, I just don't know. They're purely leaning on Josh Allen. I mean, that first quarter, they jumped out to a pretty solid lead early on, and it was pretty much just Josh Allen, and the rest of their team was really trying was the only thing holding them back was like the O line with penalties, and they just were making mistakes that were really pushing him back. But he still went out there, 4 touchdowns, over 400 yards, and yeah, he's bolstering up that MVP candidacy. But unfortunately, I am actually going to give my second set of flowers to Jared Goff, though, because I mean it was tough between the two of them, but Jared Goff, 38 completions, 494 yards, 6 yards short of 500, and 5 touchdowns, which is
Yep. He had a 5 touchdown game where he lost. He had a 5 interception game where he won.
yeah, that
Talk about crazy stats.
yeah, it's an interesting year for quarterbacks. Again, both of these guys playing very well. If I didn't have my one rule, I would have given more than one set of flowers to someone in that game because
Gee, I wonder who that could have been.
I could have been Allen or St. Brown, who had 193 yards.
I know
and
St. Brown was also doing well.
There's so many people who could have gotten it, but Goff really kicking it up a notch.
Yeah.
The looking also to the Steelers Eagles game, Pennsylvania was it
Bowl.
battle in Pennsylvania or whatever.
Steelers have still not won in Philadelphia since 1965. So that is a very long time.
You know what's funny about that though? That was Russell Wilson's first loss to the Eagles.
This is also true.
So I don't know. There wasn't a lot interesting. They actually leaned off of Saquon a little bit more in that game.
Yeah, he was more of a, I don't know how else to describe it, but like a game manager in the sense of like to burn clock.
Yeah, the time of possession in that fourth quarter was
Oh my god!
Or
the
second
half was
dominated by the Eagles.
Was it 24 minutes, or approximately 24 minutes
of the 24
were Eagle drives?
Yeah, of the
And it was 2
30.
drives.
Yeah, they just dominated time of possession. Then there was also the fact that Jalen Hurts had 290 yards, 219. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. That's like 219 of the 290 yards went to those two guys.
Yes, yeah.
So
it's pretty crazy. I do think that they did shut down those rumors about AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts not getting along, especially with their little celebration in the end zone. So, I mean, and also AJ Brown, I think, and Jalen Hurts both went on an interview saying that should have shut people up about the rumors or whatever. But
well, they came up before the game and also said that the who is it, Hassan Reddick or is it Brandon Graham? Hassan Reddick is elsewhere.
Brandon Graham was the one who originally.
Brandon Graham. There was one of them said that he's just emotional. The other one just said he misspoke because that's not really. It's not something he should have said, and it wasn't really his place to talk, but it wasn't true, and it shows that they're okay, and it was just kind of like a little drama thing, which is why, again, I try not to give too much
leeway to that. Yeah, that's fair.
Take all of that with a grain of salt because it's just drama is drama, gossip is gossip. But moving along to another not so pretty game in the Cardinals and Patriots, and
I don't really want to talk about this one.
This
one's kind of bad.
I think the only thing, actually two things. One, the people called, I believe it was Mayo's offensive play calling conservative or defensive.
I did hear about that, yeah.
And people weren't happy with that, but like also whatever. Drake May is still averaging the second highest yards per carry behind Michael Vick.
That's crazy.
I think it's a single season, but this stat he's averaging just over 9 yards a carry. So dude is having a ridiculous one, and yeah, he's playing well, and he's still bolstering up that offense. Another interesting thing, I know I've mentioned that the Cardinals offense only really works when James Conner is doing well.
Oh my gosh, James Conner went crazy that night.
Yeah, I got interesting. I captured actually kind of what that stat is. They are now 6-2 when James Conner has over 100 scrimmage yards, and they are 1-5 when he is under that. So that offense runs through him pretty much.
Good to know.
But speaking of offenses that work, Um,
How about them Buccaneers?
I think there's two things, which is obviously again one. This is the second time the Chargers have allowed more than 20 points, and they allowed 40.
So twice the average.
Yeah, it's well,
Or
yeah,
twice the most.
their average is well under 20. They were averaging the fewest points in the league, and that is largely what I based this off of. As I expected them to hold them under 20,
Yeah,
maybe
I thought so
220.
too, but no.
And
We were wrong.
a lot of that credit goes to Mike Evans, who he's after this game, he has 749 yards, and he has 3 games to keep his streak and get to his 11th 1,000 yard season. It's 251 yards, which is well better than what he was like.
What it was last game.
Outlook prior. Yeah, it's just dude is pushing. He had 150
Continue to
yards,
feed
2
him.
touchdowns, and he had some big plays. And I would, if he manages to hit 1,000, might be one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen. Because
It's possible,
that's-
especially with him.
that would be, he would have gotten over 500 in the last, not even like well less than half the season.
Yeah.
It would be like what 4 or 5 games, I think, is what he would have made up that second half of that 1,000 if he manages to get there. So I will be extremely impressed. But yeah, this game he's got 3 games to get 251 receiving yards, and I just am curious to see it happen. But can move along to the Packers Seahawks game. Not pretty.
Where's the defense, Seattle? Huh?
Defense didn't show up in the first half. Offense didn't show up at all. And Geno Smith
Also
hurt,
hurt. So
which they're optimistic that he'll play next week. And I'll go back to also the Steelers game because TJ Watt was hurt in that game. But they're also optimistic that he will play next week. So neither
okay,
seem like they'll miss time. But
that's good.
yeah, Geno, I mean, the offense didn't get better with him out. It got worse with him out, but the offense still just wasn't working. And that just, O-line struggled. I do have my third set of flowers to give. It's not as impressive of a stat line, but it is kind of just his contribution. And that's going to go to Edgerrin Cooper. He's I don't know if you know who this man is. He is a rookie out of Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
He, I believe, is mostly a predominant edge rusher. He had a sack, only 1 sack. He didn't lead his team in sacks, but he did lead his team in tackles with 7. He had 2 tackles for loss, and he had the second half interception that kind of closed it out.
I was about to say that name sounded familiar.
But another reason why I'm giving him this set of flowers is he just came back from injury. So he came back and he dominated. So he gets a lot of credit for coming in and playing huge. I mean, Packers, their defense stepped up pretty well, but their offense didn't have to do a lot. The run game was really strong in the first half, but Jacobs was limited a lot in the second.
Yes,
particularly on that 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well then we'll get into these Monday night ones, and there's some interesting numbers. I'm gonna kind of I'll let you talk about the both of them wherever you want, because I'm gonna kind of do them in conjunction. So if you have anything you want to talk about from these,
I'm going to quickly go over the Falcons and Raiders because that one I don't really care about. Amir Abdullah did really well tonight. That was nice to see. Former Husker player, still doing well. So glad to see that he's still kicking. Interception to the end of the game was the most Desmond Ridder thing to do. So that was fun to watch. Or not watch, but see on our little fantasy app. Just see what happened. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Will called it, though. Will was like, nah, they're going to throw a pick. There's just...
Raiders lose in Raiders fashion, and they are the other dumpster fire that I mentioned. I mean, I know I was talking about there's a lot of dumpster fires, but Giants, I think, everyone's
Giants
saying
are the
it's the
worst.
Giants, but I don't know.
The Raiders are pretty close.
The Raiders are bad, and since they don't have Max Crosby's out for the rest of the year, and with that being the case, it's just like they already were a dumpster fire with him there. Now
I
they,
think if Max Crosby was still in this game, the Falcons would have lost this game.
I mean, maybe the Falcons' offense didn't do a lot. And a little breaking news as of editing this video because the NFL hates us, and someone else with a news break. The Atlanta Falcons are going to be benching Kirk Cousins in favor of Michael Penix, who will be getting his first full start of the year next week and will also be starting the rest of the year. Good for Michael Penix. It's a interesting move, especially with the team looking for what's been a win now mentality all year. But it would just appear that they're really not looking too happily at that contract, that $180 million owed to Kirk Cousins. So interesting to see what they'll do there. Move on to Michael Penix for the rest of the year and see what they got in him. This will get into my stuff because between these two teams, I'll talk on, I guess, the Chicago game because this one also wasn't very interesting. It was Vikings winning as they
Pretty
should have.
handily. Randy Moss tribute by Justin Jefferson.
That is true.
That was pretty cool to see a clip of that. But we reached the other team that's been eliminated, that is now on the chopping block. Bears, 8-game losing streak. That's concerning. You should have fired Eberflus earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, some interesting things. Bears, again, first half, 0 points and 3 turnovers. Not, I think, 2 times turnover on downs. They had more than 4 yards, though. So they're improving. But this game wasn't pretty. Between just Monday night in general, it's going to go back to the Vegas game a little bit as well. There were 3 blocked punts on Monday, 2 of them in the Falcons game. The Falcons defense and special teams had 2 blocked punts, a safety, and a blocked extra point.
So that's where okay.
So they played very well.
We love special teams stuff. Makes it interesting.
Good for them. And just a closing stat that I thought was kind of interesting, and it was an interesting trend that I noticed kind of last minute. Home teams did not do well this week.
No.
Home teams went 5-11. And if it wasn't for the Vikings, it would have been 4-12. They were 4 home wins going into Monday night.
So the way I set up my notes and everything, I have the scoreboard, and then like whoever wins is highlighted in green. One side of my notes is just all green.
Yes, it was. What was it? Through the first.
It was
through the early window. There was only, I believe, one team that won it.
It was the Texans.
It got a little. It was a little more split after that, but
3 teams in the later window, and then 1 team tonight.
Yeah, it was not pretty for home teams. So that being said, that kind of wraps up notes.
Rankings.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to talk about that I didn't even get to everything, but
there's a lot of things that we have to think about, especially looking forward to a bunch of statistics and rankings, and not just power rankings, but also QB and all that stuff, and see who's looking to be coach of the year, rookies of the years, MVPs.
Yeah. A lot of interesting conversations coming up. Gonna have to make less room for the games like the Jets and the Jags going forward.
I would hope so.
So we'll get into power rankings, I guess. This is probably the most interesting power rankings I've had in a while because there was some movement.
Mine had some movement as well, but not as much as I think yours did.
We'll see. I'll let you kick off with number 10.
Number 10. Yeah, I think 10 and 9 didn't change. So number 10 is the Commanders. 1 against the Saints, just barely. A win's a win, though, I guess. So they didn't really move.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Was not as impressed with them. I've obviously have to give some credit to the Saints because Rizzi has done a pretty good job
Yeah, with
of
what he's had.
keeping that team competitive. And I'm sure Saints fans aren't happy because they're just begging for a rebuild. But like we've mentioned before, teams do not just give up on the season. They have something to work for. And for Rizzi, in this case, it is potentially a head coaching job.
Yeah.
So
And if they do tank, people usually shun them for it. So,
they're shunned and usually fine. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Looking at a couple of teams recently. So,
My number 10, I have the Denver Broncos, who I inevitably didn't move. I almost moved them up. I almost moved them down because I didn't know how to feel when your offense doesn't do anything, but your defense,
defense
is
does everything.
Your defense is so dominant that you win without
So
it.
the Steelers.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, even more so because they're just everyone stepped up when the offense was struggling, which is the sign of a good team. But also the way your offense looked was not good, and if it wasn't for your like, I was back and forth on it, but I didn't move them. They had the chance to go up and down, but they ended up staying there, so I kept them there.
Yeah. Number 9, Broncos.
For the like, just the same reason, or
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
I couldn't move them up or down. Well, no, they stayed here. So yeah, they couldn't move them up or down because the other teams below them or above them just no.
I actually have a new number 9, a newcomer actually in the top 10. I think this is the first time they've been in here.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a dominant win over a probably top 15 team in the Chargers and such a dominant defense. They kept them under 20, which isn't surprising for the Chargers to be kept under 20, but they're a well-coached team. They have a strong defense, but you went and dismantled it, and they're crawling back. I mean, they're looking a lot like they did last year with like a strong end of season push. But
I need to see one more week of them, and then I'm probably gonna put them in my top 10.
yeah, it was iffy, but another reason why I put them in is, again, they won. I'll spoil it a little bit. I don't have the Commanders in here anymore after a close win over the Saints and only having one solid win
Yeah,
recently.
they're
and
still
that was
good,
the
just not
Titans.
top 10.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I felt the need to drop them out. There were a few teams that won, but I feel like because of the win and the quality of the team that they beat and the way they beat them is what put them in the top 10. So for this week, they're going to be top 10 for me.
All right. Number 8. I'm gonna get a lot of slack for this one, or a lot of hatred towards me.
Oh, boy.
I have the Steelers at number 8 because of the teams that are up here, only 2 teams have lost to my top 10. Steelers were one of them.
So,
Just saying.
you know how the whole recurring thing of how we don't copy each other?
Are you kidding me?
I also dropped the Steelers down here because I had a lot of teams move up in the top 10, and
This is not planned whatsoever.
it's just the case of I feel like they should have dropped because they lost. A lot of these top teams moved up because of how they played. They played well. They dominated even, and the Steelers came in and played a top 10 team, top 5 team, and didn't look good. So they dropped out of the top 5, and then there's 2 teams that played well that they also jumped the Steelers. So I was like, it's a hefty drop, but like also,
They're still top 10. They're still a good team. It's just
they don't deserve top 5 anymore.
no, not anymore.
And the way the other teams played, yeah. So
Number
yeah,
7, I swear, I have the Green Bay Packers. Do you have the Green Bay Packers?
I also have the Green Bay Packers because they were I believe my number 8 team. They moved up, but again, this top 7, all but like one team played really well.
Yeah.
And that one team didn't move even though they had the opportunity to move. These top 7, I wanted to move a lot of teams up, except for one. There was only one.
Yeah, same here. There's one team that moved down.
There's a lot of teams I wanted to move up and battle for that top 5, but Packers, I didn't give you as much credit because it'll be, I don't know, it'll be controversy, but I wanted to move them up, but the way the Seahawks played was not impressive at all.
No,
so
you were playing a defense that just never showed up.
again, in the offense too, the team didn't show up to play.
I mean, you still moved up a spot in my rankings, but still.
Yeah, I wanted to. I like with how they played. I was like, I considered putting them top 5. Like 4 to 7 was iffy for me. I had no idea what to do there, but I have the Packers at 7 as well.
Knowing how things go, my number 6. I have the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
Okay, thank goodness. Okay, so I have the Vikings at number 6 because solid win over the Bears. It wasn't that impressive, but it was a solid enough win. You're currently competing for that 1 seed right now. It's a 3-way tie, isn't it, right now? Because it's Lions, Eagles, and
Record-wise,
Vikings right
it
now.
is.
Record-wise, it's a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of things that you have to do in order to get that 1 seed. So, just saying, congrats, Vikings. You're doing really well, and I think you deserve to move up at least 1 spot in these rankings. I don't know. It's a very tight window in the top 5 right now for me, so that it's very hard to get up there unless you do something immaculate in the next couple weeks. We'll see.
Number 6. I have the Ravens. For the same reason that this is why it's like controversial. Ravens did kind of the same thing. They beat a bad opponent that was bad, but I had the Ravens above anyways. And again, the way they played, especially on offense, was far different than what the Packers did. The Packers excelled early on in the ground game, and they made some solid plays late in the game, but the play of Lamar Jackson can not be
denied. Denied.
He really did so much of that just on his own, and he just was very impressive.
Yeah.
So even though the caliber, like the team they played was much worse, and they did in similar, or score wise they won in like similar fashion. They beat a bad team or a team that didn't show up to play. It's just the Giants are bad. It's still, I like the fashion that they did it better. And also, yes, I'm a Ravens fan, so. On to number 5.
Who knew? Looking at his Ravens shirt right now.
Yeah, who knew?
Anyways, my number 5 is the Ravens. Because, I mean, I'd say pretty similar reasons. I mean, beat up on a bad team. No reason to drop you. I mean, still top 5 in my book right now, unless you lose a terrible game very soon, which is, it's always likely, but we'll see. Lamar Jackson is still making his case for the MVP. I'd say he's top 3 in my list. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that he wouldn't be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would hope he's at least in a top spot in most people's lists.
We'll get to the numbers someday in one of these, but yeah, it is. When you look at him, I think there is a very fair case for him being up there. But yeah, I think honestly the top 4 might be where it gets most interesting. But number 5, I have the Chiefs. Didn't move them because you beat a bad team. You didn't really do it super impressively. You didn't do it through black magic. So yeah,
I mean, you won the game, so that's all that matters.
There's a certain standard that this top 5 have, and I think that's a lot. I wanted to put the Ravens top 5, but there's a standard that I'm kind of holding these teams to that kept the Chiefs at 5. There was a vacancy at 4, and someone filled it, so we'll get to that. But yeah, Chiefs nothing impressive really. I mean, again, defense did well, but it was against the Browns, who So
all right,
on to 4.
4 Chiefs. I mean, like he said, beat up on a bad Browns team. Your same thing like the Ravens. You won against a bad team. Congrats. You won a trophy for that or something?
At least the Ravens
I could have said that. I could have said that for the Ravens too.
At least the Ravens
you won a trophy for that too.
They did it convincingly though. Is the thing?
Yeah, it's true. But like, still, bad team. You won a trophy or something. I don't know.
Number 4, I have the Vikings because
I was wondering where they would pop.
They jumped up quite a bit. There's a vacancy from that's where the Steelers used to be, and I considered moving the Chiefs. I considered the Packers and Ravens, but I put the Vikings there because even though they may not have had as many like dominant, explosive wins as some of these other teams.
They are 12-2 right now.
They're sneakily like they're on a huge win streak. They're playing very well, and it's just kind of like not been talked about as much.
No.
They're like quietly a really good team, and their competition, like 30-12 over the Bears, who have been a mess, isn't impressive really, but
Yeah,
I mean they're 12-2. They're
you got to give them their flowers. It's
yeah.
Quite
So
literally.
I have them at 4.
all right. Number 3. It pains me to say, but it was going to happen eventually. The Lions. I dropped them to number 3 because while you did lose the Bills by 6, your defense is finally showing its injuries and it's affecting your play. Goff can't do everything. Montgomery's now out. So that's another blow to that offense and that team in general. I don't know. It's disappointing, but it was bound to happen. If they were going to lose a game, they were dropping out of that top spot. So it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I can understand that with the injuries and stuff. It's one of the cases of you're not playing poorly. You're being so beat to hell that you have to drop because
yeah, it was going to happen.
You're not doing anything wrong. It's just things happen, and your team it's showing. And unfortunately, that is going to cause you to drop. I actually don't have the Lions here though. I actually have the Eagles here because well the Eagles
That's where I had them. The Eagles at number 3.
You said you had the Lions at 3.
I'm saying last week.
Oh, okay.
Last week I had the Eagles at 3.
Okay. Yeah, the Eagles I have at 3. Might seem a little unfair because I actually dropped them a spot. But it's just I don't know because they're not like maybe it's I don't know how to look at it. Maybe they're just like being coached very well and so they're managing clock. But it's like it doesn't seem like super impressive wins. But you just did it against the Steelers, who are a good team. And you did it against the Ravens, too, who are also a very good team. But for some reason, it just doesn't look as impressive when they do it. But again, they're also a team who's on a significant winning streak.
10-win streak.
In contention for top of the conference again. They've turned things around. You have what people are hoping, a MVP caliber running back. And again, you played the Steelers and actually just made it look pretty easy. I don't know what it is that's good about them, but it just doesn't seem to like stand out as much as some of these teams. But they are a good team, which is why I have them up at 3. I have them over the Vikings because their defense has my respect, and yeah. So it's you didn't drop for anything you did, but
for number 2, error on my part. I think I had the Bills at number 3 last week. My bad. Number 2, however, is the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, interesting.
I think, as superhuman as Allen is, he cannot do it on his own. That Bills defense has disappointed me 2 weeks in a row, and that is going to bite them in the rear if they don't fix that as soon as they can. Because if you're going to be playing like that against the Lions, who are also, a little injured on defense, but their offense is still pretty put together, I'd say. That's not going to fly for more than 2 weeks. So you got to fix that defense as soon as you can. I don't know if it's just injury or if it's just terrible scheming or players are not communicating with each other. I don't know what it is, but please fix it. Still a good team. Allen is literally that entire team. But
Yeah. Number 2, I have the Lions because you lost. You put up a hell of a fight, and you're still like one of the best teams. But those injuries, they're getting to you, and you might feel it a little bit more. And I just dropped it because, again, your defense could not keep up. They made it very close to the end, even all the way up to that onside kick. They are a very hard-fought team, but I did have to drop you for losing, especially when You lose. I mean, you can do the math. I think you know who my top team is. So when you lose to the team that you do, I feel like it is deserving. But yeah, I have them at 2, and they could get right back up there to 1. But for at least this week, I have to drop them down because there's concerns. But not enough to drop them super far, but enough for someone to pass them.
That's fair. Number 1, as anybody can guess it, I can hear the anger. I had the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. Never have I thought I would put the Eagles at number 1 in my rankings. However, Saquon Barkley is him. I will say that while he didn't do amazing feats this matchup against the Steelers, he went up against probably the best or one of the best defenses in the league right now. That's still impressive. Jalen Hurts is now connecting with his receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a couple other guys. The offense is finally humming again.
That defense.
It's a good defense. Cooper DeJean.
Can't believe we let them have
Cooper DeJean
and
Quinyon Mitchell. Those two make that secondary really good. And I don't hate that they're on the Eagles team. It's just how is it possible to get those two rookies on the same team?
They do it every year.
It's not annoying. It's in my opinion, it's very impressive how they were able to get both of them in the same draft.
It's been those two. What was it the year before? Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
They did it with. Was it Jordan Davis?
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys just fall to them, and why? But
they're trying to make up for that Justin Jefferson pick. I think that's what they're trying to make up.
They're just they do so much well. And it's just props to them. They are a very good team, and again, I give them their credit. We have a lot of teams I think that could be like any other, like last year could be number 1 overall teams. But right now there's a lot of teams playing really well, and that are very.
It's kind of hard to pick who's number 1 right now, in my opinion. But this team has impressed me. That defense, I like that defense. I'm not an Eagles fan. That's a good defense.
This is a very good defense.
P for the D, as Will would do.
Yes, but if you've been keeping track, my number 1 is the Buffalo Bills. You knocked off the number 1 team. Josh Allen is. I mean, honestly, I have the Buffalo Bills. I might as well just say number 1 team is Josh Allen because
you might as well at this point.
He's been
one man
commanding. He's been commanding that team. He has been just so good, and like again, you mentioned a lot of. I'll let you get to your thing. You mentioned a lot of things with the concerns with the defense, but I mean, with how they've played the last 3 weeks, even with their defense not being great in the last 2. The way that offense is played, it might not be enough to get to a Super Bowl, but
we'll see.
My God, is it just...
We'll see.
It is the most impressive thing, and they are one of the scariest and hottest teams right now. And they're going into a 3-game stretch that is so
easy.
So easy.
So,
yeah.
I do want to point out, Josh Allen, these last 3 games, has had 1 negative play. Do you want to know what that negative play was? Taking a knee. Everything else has been either a net 0 or positive. He has had no negative plays except for that 1 knee. I think that was in this last game.
Yeah, so. And I believe it's also been over the course of, is it the last 3 weeks? 0 sacks, 0 interceptions.
0 receptions, yeah, zeros for anything negative in a quarterback stat.
That offense,
except for that knee.
Other than like penalties, that offense has been very good.
Yes,
very good. So, again, like we've mentioned, the defense is concerning, but that offense is scary right now.
If they had a consistent defense, oh my goodness, that'd be a scary team.
But
like, they still are. It's just it'd be even scarier if they had a really good defense.
I mean, hey, they do.
They do. It's just I don't know what's going on that front.
One of the most turnover defenses.
Yeah, they're up there.
So they're just they're playing classic Big 12 football, really.
Well, they definitely are. So just let Josh Allen do his thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Lots of talking points, and we will continue with that, and we will deep dive into the quarterback play at some point this year because
Eventually.
it has been spectacular what some of these guys have done. But
Yes.
as we have run a little long today,
Just a little bit.
we are going to wrap up this beautiful Week 15 recap. It was a beautiful baby of a Week 15 recap.
It was
And
very ugly games. A couple
Some-
good games.
I mean, I don't know. I like the football that's been going on this year. Are all the games interesting? Not necessarily, but I like the football that's being played. We are going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. We always appreciate your company and your attention. I get the feeling that I should wrap this up a lot quicker before I soon am on the chopping block. So thank you for joining us. It's been a mighty pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
His joke earlier was the reason why he's on the chopping block now. So, see ya.